Another year is halfway done, and we have wasted a lot of time on some average or better games that we probably could have spent doing other things, but you know what? We're just that kind of gamer. Hi folks, it's Mac, and today on this video, 15 average games we strangely liked way too much. Again, these are games that certainly are not the best games in the world, but we enjoyed them, and I'm here to talk about that reason. So without further ado, let's get started. Starting off with number 15, Castlevania Lords of Shadow. Now, taking a franchise that was known for its non-linear 2D style games and trying to make it a more linear action game therein is a recipe for disaster, right? But Lords of Shadow is kind of a game where the whooshing sound it makes when it's dodging what made a Castlevania game really fucking good is, tons of stuff. It's oblivious, it's strange, but for some reason, I thought it was fun. I don't know. I still kind of do. I think a lot of people obviously love Castlevania, right? I love Symphony of the Night, I love Castlevania 3, I love Super Castlevania 4, I can go on. Obviously the Metroidvania type stuff was really where they were at their best, but I don't know, for some reason I was into this game, even though it really was sort of wanted to be God of War, sort of wanted to be The Legend of Zelda, and very much under-delivered on pretty much all the fronts. I wouldn't even say this is close to a bad game, but an average one? Yeah, probably, sure. Especially when you factor in the slow start, but once you get going, you get some more weapons and abilities, and the environments start to change up. And the backgrounds are great in this. Great backgrounds. I don't know, the game felt fun. There's varied levels, some big, cool bosses. It's got some big, crazy orchestral music. I think their idea with this was actually to create kind of like a reboot of the series, put it in 3D, and make it stand apart from the rest of them. And I'll say, whatever was here just made it for some reason worm its way into my mind. I couldn't tell you why. Coming up next at number 14, it's RoboCop Rogue City. A thing that I love about these Teon games is how seriously they take RoboCop and the RoboCop IP. They relentlessly, lovingly recreate everything people like about the original. I don't think that necessarily means that it takes absolutely everything about the original seriously. Certainly not RoboCop itself, nor the Enforcer model that Rogue City is built in the style of. They take a lot of inspiration from the old RoboCop games and just backport it into a modern FPS. That's what's great about them. They play like RoboCop, they're clunky, they're slow, they're weird, they're janky, and they kind of feel old despite being designed, functioning, and looking new. One of the things that really stands out is the interaction between RoboCop and literally anybody else in the world. RoboCop's immensely powerful. He kills anything that comes near him in just a couple of shots. His standard Auto 9 fires piercing incendiary bullets that could basically mow down bad guys like a lawnmower. He's got other weapons too, like a fancy electroshock shotgun, a particle beam cannon, and a rapid-fire SMG. Basically, any of these guns might not seem realistic to put in one man, but in RoboCop, they fit snugly into a Nebraska compartment in his leg.
Big explosion over here!
At number 13 is Mirror's Edge Catalyst. At some point, DICE got a reputation for creating high-quality, critically acclaimed first-person shooters. Then, oddly enough, they spun off and made Mirror's Edge, which had some first-person shooting, technically, but it was almost entirely a first-person movement puzzle platforming game. It made no sense. It was a fun game, though. It was lovingly crafted and unique. Honestly, it was great fun to play. So, some many years later, when we got Mirror's Edge Catalyst, it was interesting because it expanded on a lot of what we liked about the original game and also expanded on what we did not like about the original game. There was more combat, more violence, more thugs, and more high-tech stuff to punch and kick over. There was a lot of running through offices and fighting burly security guards who seemed to be about as intelligent as your average Gordon Freeman enemy. They get outsmarted and easily evaded, but they're everywhere, which kind of balances it out. You can build up a bit of a rhythm walking through the city with no enemy hear sight. But you've got this big open world sandbox that forces you to stop what you're doing and participate in the typical Ubisoft stuff that would have been out of place as hell in the original Mirror's Edge. To be frank, it's not as well crafted as the first game. It has some serious repetition issues, but to me, people who call it a bad game are just plain wrong. It's not the original game, which is obviously what I would prefer more of. But let's be brutally honest. Once you get past those initial issues and find its rhythm, the game feels great.
Your blood to yourself.
Moving to number 12, we have Shadow Warrior 3. Now, if you're familiar at all with the recent Shadow Warrior 1, Shadow Warrior 2, you might be thinking I'm absolutely insane, but hear me out. Shadow Warrior 3 is fun. On one hand, it just turns the main character Lo Wang up to 11 to the point where he just doesn't shut up, and I get it, but this game seems like kind of the developers playing it safe, right? Like this one is more just like a straightforward single-player 7-hour campaign experience. It's a first-person shooter with Serious Sam style run around in a big arena type of gameplay. It's just like combat arena after combat arena after combat arena with corny jokes and gore and really cool weapons. The hook with this one is not only having your weapons, but still like a grappling hook to zip around a mile a minute, and absolutely amazing weapons like a gun that turns enemies into ice and then freezes them and then snaps your fingers and then they explode, or like a Gatling gun, but it shoots spinning ninja stars at an insane fire rate. There's some creativity here, and that's really all I need. Sometimes you just want a straightforward action game that's just giving you a good time. Next, over at number 11, we have Darksiders 3. Not every video game has to be a big AAA masterpiece, you know, genre-defining, groundbreaking to be enjoyable and cool. And the Darksiders trilogy is one of the best examples of that. Darksiders 3, the most recent entry in the series and the one we're talking about here, it's kind of the best and the worst of both worlds. The original Darksiders is like a Zelda-style game, while Darksiders 2 is both more of like an action RPG. 3 tries to take the best part of those games and also mix them with some elements of Dark Souls, which, good idea in theory, but it's kind of mishandled. The game is overly difficult in certain places and overly easy in others, with a combat system that's like kind of between the dodging and blocking of a Souls game and the more straightforward hack and slash. So combat and progression just feels really awkward and off. It's an inconsistent experience with some good moments, and ultimately it's still just very fun. You know, elemental weapons and magic, all that stuff's cool. The story isn't terrible either. There are some really fun, quirky bosses that clearly animate the team to put more resources into them. There are some good ideas here, but, you know, the game wasn't meant to be. I love the Darksiders games, like with what I'm saying here. Maybe it doesn't sound great, but I do love them, and I do love what they've established. Still hoping to see more some days at least.
Gonna take down that other cube.
Now next, over at number 10, we have Ghostwire Tokyo. Definitely come around a lot more on this game. Like when it first released, I had some issues, but I do think the time and the updates that developers have put into it have really helped. It's a fairly low-stakes open-world game, but an open-world game that's still incredibly engaging. You're just zipping down the streets of a very atmospheric Tokyo, and everything is made even better with all the weird supernatural stuff going on, like the schools, the stores, the spiritual creatures, all that. I love the world here, but it's very empty, so your mileage may vary, but what had me going was the fact that it's a first-person action exploration game with Keikai Genkai, like Doctor Strange-style magic abilities that honestly never stop being cool. The game does have its share of kind of generic or road-ass open-world activities, but it does often shake it up with things like the, you know, DK loops, unusual NPCs, strange stories, side quests, and stuff like that. There is some meat to this, and the game only got better over time, like I said, with updates for new modes and general quality of life improvements that make this game a little bit more engaging at all times. It still might not be worth the price of admission for some people, but grabbing it on sale, you're going to be surprised. It also helps that it eventually went to Xbox Game Pass, so grab it that way too if you can. Just, you know, give it a shot. Next, over at number 9, yes, I'm doing it, Homefront: The Revolution. This game is significantly better than what was originally released and then panned by critics. This train wreck of a game went through some extreme development struggles that no doubt hurt the game's quality, but with some updates, they like de-revolutioned this game. It's a better game. It's a game that on its own, yes, would still be a 5 or a 6 or a 7, but there's something about it. The potential, the creativity feels a little bit realized in some spots, but a little too late. I don't know, but either way, like there's some cool stuff here. I love the immersive atmosphere of Wandering Philadelphia. I love the maps, the open world stuff, the combat, the guns. There's just something fun about this one, and I actually think it deserves some credit, at least for the setting and the world it establishes. Now look, yes, this game does show what happens when THQ shut down and its companies like squandered time and just mismanaged projects. On the one hand, I'm glad this game exists, but on the other, it probably could have been a lot better. This one is mildly, morbidly fascinating, but I still think it might be worth checking out. Also, if you've ever been to Philly and just like seeing City Hall in video game form, I don't know, I'm simple, I like that. Now next, over at number 8, we have Far Cry Primal. This one was a spin-off of Far Cry. It was almost like set in ancient times, kind of like Stone Age era, and I love this one just because of the really limited nature of the action and exploration, where you're just like a caveman with like a cool bone tomahawk and like some creatures at your command. I just really like the setting here, the 3 different tribes, but what I really like is just like traversing the snowy, foresty wilderness. It's just one of those open worlds where you're just exploring, discovering things as you go and losing yourself in it, not paying attention to the map, not doing the thing Ubisoft wants you to do, just living in this weird little ancient mud and stick caveman world, and I like it. Now, Far Cry Primal isn't perfect, and of course, I'll be the first to say I don't think it's as good as Far Cry 2 or anything, but there is just something about it. I love getting a drone owl and flying around and spotting enemies. The nature of those classic Far Cry, you know, take over a base type of playstyle, but doing it in a weird, savage fashion. I don't know, for like a brief, isolated, single-player, FPS, linear narrative game, it's just pretty solid.
What's happening? Are you mad?
I'm not mad.
Rabbit.
That's not right.
Next, over at number 7, we have Alice Madness Returns. This one, of course, is a cult classic to some people, but I will say, as somebody who played it only back when it first released, it's not amazing, and it has some big flaws, but this cult hit is still so interesting after all these years. Its sequel is in development hell, but despite some weird flaws, like a lot of collectibles, kind of the low stakes, like a really low challenge, simple design, which outweighed things in comparison, like the very fun world design, the weapons, the adventure. It's kind of like an easy game, but it just keeps you going. The Wonderland world here and the world around it is just, it has been immortalized in my mind with just how cool and weird it is. It's so striking with its twisted character designs and amazing combat and dodging with the floatiness of the combat that is very unique. Your ability to swap between swinging swords, using the teapot cannon, this like cool cannon, and like pistony hammer thing. I don't know, but this is just a strange game that kept me going until the end. Like I said, yes, pretty flawed, and if you just look at it, yes, it just looks really dated. Also, definitely with just some crappy game things, like it wants you to like use the shrink button to look at specific collectibles to see. That's annoying, but at the end of the day, it doesn't stop this game from being an entertaining journey. Sometimes that's all you need. Now next at number 6, we have Rage 2, a bizarre game. It's also an open world FPS that allows for just many different outcomes of enjoyment, but it's definitely intentionally stupid. It's supposed to be just like a high octane, turn your brain off type of action game, and it delivers on that despite its world being just so strangely empty. Like, I don't know what they were doing here. It's like a game with a low budget, but like a really high budget at the same time. Like they just didn't know where to put their resources. I don't know, but I've gone on the record saying this many times, and I am not afraid to say it again. I do like Rage 2. Now, granted, I did not play the first Rage, but Rage 2, I just like because it just plays so well in terms of movement. If you like games like Doom or just older ID shooters, you know, this has that momentum, that sliding, that speed, platforming, and jumping abilities, and just a bunch of cool abilities that combine and work together with your weapons. So you're shooting, you're firing off grenades, you're throwing out powers, you're doing like that cool runaway, throwing down a grenade behind you, and it hits a guy and flips him over type of thing. The blast pistols and the weapons that flip enemies really speak to me, and it made the gunplay here explosive. It makes the game just fun to play, especially when you get a hold of some of the best weapons and combine them with things like ground pound or slam down type abilities. The combat just stays fun. The story is whatever, and the world is just like colorful puke. But, you know, sometimes that's fine with me, and it does have a really, really good shotgun.
Shay, you are a sight for sore eyes.
Jack?
Next on the list at number 5, we have a game that's on this list just because I like it, and I know it's not great, but I feel like it's often kind of looked over, like left out of the conversation. We're talking about Assassin's Creed Rogue. This is essentially a mini version of Assassin's Creed Black Flag, but not quite as good, but still. It was created by Ubisoft Support Studios, kind of like a spin-off or a sub-game to Assassin's Creed Unity. We had one more traditional style, old school Assassin's Creed game. Like I said, it's the Black Flag type stuff, ships and naval stuff. So yeah, it's a little derivative, sure, but the story is not terrible. Playing as Shay Patrick Cormac has its benefits. It's interesting being more so the villain, but, you know, gameplay-wise, he's still like an Assassin's Creed character. You're doing the Black Flag stuff, and Black Flag was already cool, so more levels to explore, different exploring, some different locations, that awesome Great Lakes naval warfare, like it's all fun. Now this game wouldn't exist without Black Flag. So like I said, it's not revolutionary, it's not groundbreaking, but for some reason, I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. It's like another Uncharted Lost Legacy spin-off type situation where it's just like a good game to have in between the real games. Like this one is really short, it's kind of like half a game, but it's good and it's a fun time. Now, next at number 4, we have Remember Me, a 2013 release that definitely shows its age, but is still full of cool sci-fi action in this like crazy cyberpunk world, Neo Paris. It's like an action-adventure game where you're playing as somebody who's an amnesiac person who used to be like a memory hunter, and then they got arrested, and then they had their memory wiped, and you're trying to put it back together, find out what happened. It's not bad, but really what sells it is, like I said, is the world. The art design, the buildings, everything is just so cool looking. It's a little bit of an adventure game. It's a little bit of a combat game. It always keeps you going and keeps you engaged. It's a pretty mixed bag. The story kind of plays out, sometimes simplistic for some people, but for me, it kept me going until the end. I think all of the gimmicky cyberpunk memory stuff was cool. The presentation here is not perfect, the game has some flaws, but it's good to play as Nealon. The combat isn't perfect, it's kind of like lightweight, poor man's Batman Arkham type of combat, but still pretty solid, and the game surprised me with keeping me engaged until the end. Keep in mind, this is from the developers who eventually would go on to make things like Life is Strange. It's kind of cool to see them try something completely different, and yeah, it's definitely different.
Lord Almighty. Holy shit!
Now moving to number 3, we have Mafia 3. Let's talk about it. Another one we find ourselves talking about a lot here, but for good reason, like this game released, and it was kind of busted. Still, it is flawed, it's repetitive, and it feels like a massive step down after the amazing Mafia 2, but I don't know, like even just playing it again after the release of the redos of the first game and the second game, playing Mafia 3 again, this still has its own very unique story and setting, and it's kind of special. Like, it doesn't necessarily feel like the other games, which is a little off-putting, but what it does have really makes it stand out, and that's the incredible story following the main character, Lincoln Clay. It's about revenge, it's about overcoming race, it's about the Vietnam War, it's about the mob, it's about heists. It's got a good supporting cast of incredible actors chewing the scenery, giving it their all. The documentary and like framing device for the way the story is told is brilliant, the music is brilliant, the world and how it builds out its like version of New Orleans is brilliant. It's just that everything you do as a video game is kind of repetitive. You're doing the same kind of combat and action stuff over and over again until the next story beats. And yes, the story beats and cutscenes, everything has a really good payout, but in between those can feel like a bit of a slog. If you're in the mood for it, you'll be fine, you'll enjoy it, but if you're not, you might just speed it up, speed run through those things, and just watch the story on YouTube or something. Either way, we did it, and we love it. Down at number 2, we have The Sinking City. This was a very strange game. It was kind of like an investigation-y, choose-your-own-adventure type thing, you know, Lovecraft, horror type stuff, but it was just like a cool world, like pretty gross looking, definitely marked with questionable quality, but it still has some good vibes. Exploring, investigating, finding clues in the city, dealing with twists and cultists, and just like a cool cosmic horror story has a lot of potential. As you're going around, getting into shootouts, fighting things, sometimes unfortunately walking all slow in these like endless flooded streets and little canals, you'll be frustrated and bored, but then the game still holds something, like it just does barely enough to keep you going. It also doesn't help that this game, development-wise, and their dealings with their contract for releasing the game and in the game store, got all muddled up in legal battles and actually really bad stuff that hurt the lives of a lot of the people who worked on this game. So that bums me out. So on one hand, I'm happy to see Frogware still out and trying it out, which is The Sinking City, but like I said, it's a bit flawed, but still just cool. It didn't need the puzzles like over glorifying your frustrations, and in some things it wasn't great, but overall, we think managing to solve cases your own way and the casebook and all of this made The Sinking City good enough, and it scratched the Lovecraft itch when you need it.
Jacob! Come on! We gotta move! Hurry! It's still coming down!
Now finally over at number 1, we have the Callisto Protocol, and I can't lie, I enjoyed this game. When it released, it got a lot of hate. I think there was some fairness to that, sure, but I still think this game predictably was overhated. 10s and 1s, right? But I'm here to say it's good, it's fine, it's not great. It had a lot to live up to, but still, it's good. And if an experience like this could be considered a mid-tier game like we're talking about, then I consider this a win because I just like that this type of thing still gets made. It's that survival horror event limited where the game is over before you know it, and it's kind of just perfect for that. It's like a movie game in a good way. Was it as good as Dead Space? No. Did the melee combat sometimes feel like it didn't fit the blueprint of essentially a Dead Space type game? Yes. Did the game not really deliver on a lot of the potential of its setting? Absolutely. But if you look past all those things, it was still a decently solid horror thriller with a mostly original world, a mostly original story, that can sometimes be exactly what you're looking for, you know? Is it the best survival horror game? Absolutely not. There are a lot better ones. That said, the Callisto Protocol is worth your time. Like, if you're an absolute horror nut looking for another good horror roller coaster ride in video game single-player form, and from what we've seen, the developers here kind of have it down. So if the Callisto Protocol 2 ever happens and the team actually kind of evolves their ideas here, we still think there is some good potential from this series, even though technically it kind of stumbled out of the gate.